Well, after cutting a big field of grass and then raking it all up and hauling it over here, I now have a big pile this size here. It's huge. And there's another compost pile that I have that's probably a month old. And then this one is even older. And I have a lot of leaves here I'm going to mix in with that big pile. I'm not going to compost it. That's probably going to be maybe 2 different piles. I'm going to cut that thing in half and mix it in with about half of this. But I also went to the neighbors and was able to get some of his cow manure from him. I got 5 wheelbarrows full of cow manure. Then I brought over 5 wheelbarrows full of soil from that garden area that I don't really use, and just never seemed very useful. Didn't work out. Everything I plant there dies. So I was reading about this. I put this side by side because I was going to mix this 50-50, but I was reading about it, and he said it's better to mix it more like 4-to-1, 4 parts of soil to 1 part of composted cow manure. So I'm going to try it like that. So basically 4 wheelbarrows of soil to 1 wheelbarrow of cow manure. Well, I have 5 wheelbarrows of cow manure right there. So that means I could use 20 wheelbarrows of soil, dig it out from over here, because I really don't want to plant into the ground here. What I'm going to do is get into container gardening. I might eventually put the containers out here, but there's been some theft of plants. There's a gentleman over there that has some plants that he grows, and in fact I see somebody over there right now and it's not him. And what they do is they come over there and dig up his whatever he has. He was growing some camotes, some sweet potatoes, and he said half of his harvest was gone. They dug it up. He lives in town, so he comes out here once in a while and takes care of the stuff. But I could put a big fence across here and all the way around this area. Hog wire fence are pretty cheap. I thought about just running it right along here, and those trees there, those old trees can, that's my loon guy by the way, can be a support. Then up across here. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to do container gardening. I can actually put those containers anywhere I want. I like to start them out over there in the shade, and as they start to mature, I bring them out into the sun. That's what I started doing here, and they've done really well. I'm surprised how much better they're doing compared to their counterparts over in the shade. I understand that you got to have sun. That's what they want, is sun. That's why they have leaves. However, the sun gets so blasted hot here, I thought that that's what destroyed my plants over here. Nothing could grow well. We actually have some peanuts growing over there, but they're doing terrible. We had some alagbati growing here. I took them out of this area, dug you can see a little bit, just a little bit still growing. I had some like that, dug them out of the ground, and there's another one. There's about like that, very little left. I dug it out of the ground and took it over here and put it in my compost, and said, well, we'll see what happens to it. And actually, yeah, that's over here now. I started giving it some sun. I kept it out of the sun and put it in the shade. In the shade. Here it is over here in the sun. And I thought that's what was killing it. It's just too much sun. So I put it in the shade, and it did very well. Now here it is. That's what was actually dying. So what I did is I put it here. I noticed that there's a lot of shade there around 11 o'clock until the rest of the, all through the afternoon. So the sun comes up over there, and it comes up, It gets sunshine all morning till about 11 o'clock when it really starts to get very hot, and then it's in the shade. So if anything, it will help harden it to the sun. Same with these. And once I did that, their counterparts that are over in the shade still, not doing so well. This one here was actually doing the worst of all of them. Okay, it was the smallest, and I thought, well, here's an experiment. I'll take the smallest one and put it out there and see what it does in the sun, getting the first 6 hours of the sun every day, and compare those two, especially that one that was the smallest, to this guy over here. You'll see a big difference. And where did I put it? I moved them all over there. I had one that couldn't, I used to keep them right there. There was one that didn't seem to be able to handle the heat, and I threw that one away. Because once I put it over there in the sun, it started to die. So I said, okay, fine, you're not strong, you're gone. The reason I brought those other two over there was because I saw how good the small one did. So, I think it's working out. I have some alagbati here. Normally I put the alagbati I get from the market, put it in water first after cutting off all of the leaves like that. That's alagbati. You can see it's starting to get some new growth there. Okay? But this time I wanted to try it by putting it with the leaves still on, see what happens. And I had those out in the sun, only in the water, but the dogs knocked it over, and I just found it today. So I stuck it into the compost instead, and I'm keeping it well watered. See what happens to it. Okay, I know these will work because that's what we did the last time for the other ones. So that's a little look around. Got some manure, some soil, and a lot more soil I can get, mix it all up. Some new compost materials. So I'm going to have a lot of good compost there, as well as that composted manure. I'm going to start putting things, getting containers like this plastic container here. And you see the holes are already in it for letting out the water. And start filling them babies up and start getting some things planted. I have a lot of plants over here that are peppers. Not really bell peppers, they're the longer type. They're like bell peppers, but the long, thin type. I got a number of them growing. I kind of keep this thing here to protect them from the dogs. These smaller ones, I left them in this container for a long time, and they weren't doing so well. The ones that I transplanted did really good. So I moved these and transplanted them as well, hoping they would catch up with their buddies. And these guys are the ones that were the quickest to grow at the very beginning. So eventually I need to get them into some bigger pots, and that's why the big push for getting some compost now. All right, well, that's a look at what I'm working on right now. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.